सीधा पॉइंट पे आते हैं, कंप्यूटर बनाए तो कैसे बनाएं, कंप्यूटर असेंबल करें तो कैसे करें, हाउ डू यू एक्चुअली बिल्ड योर पीसी। मोमेंट ऑफ ट्रूथ, आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू से इट इज वेरी इजी. Building the PC is very easy. The difficult part is to choose the right parts. जो PC बिल्डिंग की सबसे अच्छी बात है वो यही है कि आप अपने रिक्वायरमेंट के हिसाब से अपना PC कस्टमाइज कर रहे हैं. परफॉर्मेंस, साइज, लुक्स सब कुछ आपके हाथ में है. The best way is to get the right information about the system requirement, not what the world is telling you, but what you would be happy with. If you are going to do a CPU heavy task and it is going to hamper your productivity, a better CPU is giving you better render times and you are saving time, thus saving money, then go for that. Build a better system now and you won't be crying in the next 1 or 2 years. So this is Ityadi and I am here to let you know that how you can build your own PC in any budget. This might be the first point that you have to consider, or it might be just the in-betweener of the different YouTube videos that you're watching right now. But it might be helpful for you. Just give it a try. आपको सबसे ज़्यादा तकलीफ इसी केस में आने वाली है. मैं अपने PC components कैसे choose करूँ? It's just 5 or 6 components, but the combination of different parts create different kind of performance for every field. Grab a notepad and note down every application that you are going to use in this computer. Keeping the priority of these applications in mind, you have to check the recommended system requirement for all the applications. Yes, smaller ones too. For example, if you're using Chrome is a RAM heavy task. Not a lot of people know that, but I think Google is already on it to fix. Just one example. इसी तरीके से आपको सारी requirement Google पे डालनी है. Okay, Google, what is the system requirement to run Adobe After Effects?
To run After Effects, you need a 64-bit processor and at least 8 gigabytes of RAM.
It says at least 8 gigabytes of RAM. You might have to check what effects would you have if you have more RAM on it. Because believe me, RAM is one thing that is going to be used in a lot of tasks. For an example, if you're going to do multitasking on a computer, like you have to keep After Effects and Premiere both open side by side in your computer. You cannot consider only one system requirement in your mind. You have to keep both the applications in mind at that time. The gigabytes, precious gigabytes. आपको exactly configuration क्या रखनी है? तीनों चीजें, CPU, GPU and RAM. इन तीनों का कॉम्बिनेशन कैसे यूज हो रहा है सारी एप्लीकेशंस के लिए, ये जानना बहुत जरूरी है. इन सब के कितनी वैल्यूज होनी चाहिए. What kind of application is it? Is it a single core heavy task? Is it a multi-core heavy task? Let's talk about a few things that you have to keep in mind while building your own computer. One thing is bottlenecking. आपके पास ये पूरा रिजर्वॉयर है. अगर कोई ऐसा कंपोनेंट है जो कि इसको फनल कर रहा है या फिर उसकी स्पीड स्लो कर रहा है, that means it's bottlenecking. For an example, every part of your computer is very fast. Hard drive is very slow. It is not going to read the application files very easily. It will take time. Even after having all the power in the world with best-in-class graphics card, best-in-class CPU, sometimes it would just stutter. It will start lagging. This is because it is not able to use the storage properly. This is not because your PC is bad. It's because you made bad choices while picking the right parts of your computer. So do the research of whatever that you're going to do with your PC. Google पे डालिए minimum system requirement, maximum system requirement for recommended PC configuration for this and this application. You will get a lot of articles. Pay attention to the creator's website of the application. Most of all, they will only add the minimum system requirement. At many instances, they also add the recommended or the maximum system requirement that can be used. Okay, आपको optimum performance के लिए क्या system requirement रखनी है, जिसमें आता है CPU, GPU and RAM. बेंचमार्क से आपको एक बेसिक स्केल पता लग सकता है कि आपको कितने पैसे खर्च करने पड़ेंगे आपकी जो रिक्वायरमेंट है उसके हिसाब से. अगर मैं सर्च कर रहा हूँ कि व्हाट इज द बेस्ट CPU फॉर दिस एंड दिस एप्लीकेशन एंड इफ आई कम अक्रॉस दैट इट नीड्स Intel 10900K or AMD Ryzen 3950X, I will check the prices of the CPU and if the price exceeds my budget, then I will reconsider it. Then you can upgrade or downgrade from there. This is just one way of searching for a right CPU. Once you have chosen your CPU, then comes the part to choose the right GPU, जो कि आज की डेट में रेंडरिंग के टाइम पे भी बहुत हेल्प करता है. डीप लर्निंग, मशीन लर्निंग, कोडिंग, डेटा मैनेजमेंट, a lot of things are being managed by GPU. If you are a heavy gamer, you are obviously going to spend a lot of money on your GPU. If graphics are something that you can live without, then there are different workarounds to not use graphics performance much and still get a very good result. For an example, in video editing, we use proxies. You can even edit 4K videos on not so high-end computers just because you know how to operate on different kinds of setups. अब GPU कैसे decide करते हैं? The major players are NVIDIA and AMD. AMD is actually a bit far behind than NVIDIA right now because NVIDIA has ray tracing. So ray tracing effect सिर्फ NVIDIA provide कर रहा है इस टाइम पे. By the way, बहुत कुछ सुनने में आ रहा है कि AMD भी ray tracing with DLSS launch करने वाला है. Ray tracing. What is ray tracing? Have you seen your reflection in the mirror? So earlier graphic cards were not capable of providing real world reflections in games. If you're gaming and you are on a frozen lake, so before ray tracing, games were actually cheating this by creating the mirror of the world underneath the ice. But right now with ray tracing, real world reflections can be made because ray tracing is calculating all the rays of lights from the light source. This is actually a game changer in many scenarios. For an example, 3D art like in Maya, in 3ds Max or in Blender, viewport rendering also shows ray tracing capability. Like Blender can actually show ray traced reflections. Ray tracing starts with RTX 2060, and if you don't care about ray tracing, then go for GTX, or maybe if you are an AMD fan, then go for Radeon. I think there are many factors to choose the right GPU. You can watch a few videos that I'm going to add in the description so that you can do the fine research for your own GPU. For me, I chose RTX 2060 because I don't actually bother much about graphics performance with the work I do because I don't do gaming at all. I did care about ray tracing because I sometimes use Blender to create 3D models, and I would love to see preview rendering with ray tracing enabled. Let's go to the next phase, that is choosing the motherboard. The base of all the components, you have to see a compatible motherboard with the CPU. CPU has a specific socket, specific generation. There are some motherboards that won't be out of the box compatible with a newer generation CPU, even if it is advertised as compatible. You might have to upgrade the BIOS. You have to consider all these things. What kind of experience do you want? If you don't want to reflash the BIOS at all, then you have to make sure that you buy a motherboard that is compatible with the CPU out of the box. ये motherboard जितना robust होगा, जितना अच्छा होगा, वो उतना ही long lasting होगा. ओवरक्लॉकिंग कैपेबिलिटीज उतनी ही अच्छी मिलेंगी. किस स्पीड के पोर्ट्स हैं, कितने पोर्ट्स हैं, फ्रंट पैनल के लिए क्या क्या सपोर्ट है, कितने RGB हेडर्स हैं, कितने फैन हेडर्स हैं, PCIe एक्सप्रेस लेन्स कितने हैं, NVMe स्लॉट्स, M.2 SSD slots, SATA slots, the quality of the VRM modules. VRM modules are necessary for voltage regulation for the CPU. If you need Wi-Fi and Bluetooth integrated or not. If you need USB Type-C, Thunderbolt, audio ports, how many SATA ports does it have, how many RAM slots does it have, and please make sure that you don't fall for gimmicks. There is a very informational video by JS2 Sense about the real features versus gimmicks in motherboards or in any PC components out there. I'll add the link of the video in the description, so do check that out. There are many tricks that manufacturers use. इसकी भी आपको research करनी पड़ेगी. Next is to choose the right RAM. अभी तक आपने CPU, GPU और मदरबोर्ड चूज किया है, अब RAM चूज करनी है. सो RAM के लिए सबसे पहले आपको देखना है कि आपका CPU कितना RAM स्पीड सपोर्ट करता है. मेमोरी क्लॉक स्पीड ऑफ RAM आपको CPU के साथ मैच करना है, और RAM का जो मॉडल नंबर है वो आपको मदरबोर्ड के मैन्युफैक्चरर सपोर्ट पेज पे चेक करना है. सो CPU से आपको मेमोरी स्पीड चेक करनी है, नॉट द मॉडल नंबर, और मदरबोर्ड की मैन्युफैक्चरर वेबसाइट पे और उसके सपोर्ट पेज पे आपको रैम का मॉडल नंबर चेक करना है. फॉर एन एग्जांपल, आई नीडेड 3000 और 3200 मेगाहर्ट्ज रैम. 3200 मेगाहर्ट्ज वाली सारी रैम के लिंक्स खोले, एट द सेम टाइम 3000 मेगाहर्ट्ज मेमोरी क्लॉक के साथ जितनी भी रैम्स थी उनके भी सारे लिंक्स खोल लिए. Somewhere it's just 8 GB that I would buy 2, or sometimes it's just a 16 GB kit that has 2 RAM sticks of 8 GB each. In that way, I have every possible RAM available on my screen, so I can consider the price and availability of it. If my motherboard is MSI B450 Gaming Pro Carbon AC, I would type support space MSI B450 Gaming Pro Carbon AC, and that will have a list of RAM modules. It's recommended to use 2 RAMs at one time, not just 1 RAM stick, because that hugely impacts your performance. It's either 2 or 4. And it's highly recommended to use the same brand, the same model number RAM sticks, even if you're upgrading. Keeping one thing in mind, if you want to keep a thumb rule, keep 16 GB to 64 GB of RAM at least. Sometimes Windows takes more than 4 GB of your RAM. You want the RAM to be available for your work as well, not just Windows, because I think it's there to help you, not to run Windows, right? Don't take my word on it. Do your own research. Go for 64. Go for 256 GB. So next is to choose the storage. So guys, storage में बहुत कुछ है हमारे पास. SATA M.2 होता है, NVMe M.2 होता है, 2.5 inch SSD और 3.5 inch HDD. So hard disk drive has rotating disks inside it that has mechanical parts, and all the other 3 storage drives have just solid state flash drives or a PCB with memory modules on it. आपको अपने motherboard में चेक करना पड़ेगा कि M.2 slots कितने हैं और क्या क्या सपोर्ट करते हैं. For me, मैंने एक बहुत बड़ी मिस्टेक की थी. मुझे लग रहा था कि M.2 slots एक ही तरह का होता है, और M.2 slots में it's compatible with both NVMe and SATA M.2 drive, and both were different. I got to know after I was making that PC, and somehow I knew the hard way that one of the M.2 slots are not working, whatever I did, and then I saw a video by Tech Quickie. So it has clearly mentioned what is the difference between all the different storage solutions. You have to definitely check that before making a decision, because there is a world of confusion out there if you are new to this world, to different kind of drives, NVMe and SATA. So how can you make sure that you are choosing the right M.2 drive? NVMe uses the PCI Express lanes, and the SATA M.2 uses SATA lanes specifically. The PCI Express lanes would obviously be much faster than the SATA M.2. So you have to be sure what you choose. Then आपको चूज करनी है एक बहुत ही अच्छी पावर सप्लाई. अगर एक पावर सप्लाई खराब होती है तो फिर वो सारे कंप्यूटर के कंपोनेंट्स को जला के भी जल सकती है. अगर तुमने 1 लाख रुपए लगाया है अपने कंप्यूटर पे, तो फिर भाई अच्छी पावर सप्लाई लगाना, ताकि एटलीस्ट तुम्हारा कंप्यूटर जल के ना मरे. तुम अगर उसको गेम खेलते खेलते जला दो तो समझ में आता है, लेकिन यार गुड पावर सप्लाई इज लाइक अ गुड इंश्योरेंस प्लान. It will serve you for years, and you would think at the end of the day, क्या मैं इससे सस्ता भी ले सकता था? But let it be a mystery, because you would never want PC components to be burning on you because of a bad power supply. So इसमें बहुत सारी रेटिंग्स होती हैं. ये भी मुझे नया पता चला था कि ब्रॉन्ज के अलावा भी कुछ होता है. ब्रॉन्ज के नीचे व्हाइट आता है. व्हाइट, ब्रॉन्ज, सिल्वर, गोल्ड, प्लैटिनम, टाइटेनियम, हीरा मोती, बहुत कुछ है इसमें. टू बी फेयर, 80+ गोल्ड is a very good rating, gives you a very efficient power supply. पावर सप्लाई चूज करते टाइम 2 बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ों का ध्यान रखना है. एक कि उसकी पावर एग्जैक्टली कितनी होनी चाहिए. ये तो सबसे आसान काम है पूरी पीसी बिल्डिंग का. देयर आर PSU कैलकुलेटर्स और SMPS कैलकुलेटर्स. अगर आप इसको गूगल करोगे, इट विल ओपन अप अ फॉर्म. उस फॉर्म में होगा कि आप CPU कौन सा यूज कर रहे हो एग्जैक्ट, आप GPU, RAM, कितनी हार्ड ड्राइव यूज करोगे, कितनी मतलब नंबर ऑफ हार्ड ड्राइव, देन उसमें SSD भी होंगी या नहीं, कितने फैंस यूज करोगे, LEDs यूज करोगे या नहीं. इन सब को डाल के वो कैलकुलेट करके आपको उसका रिकमेंडेड पावर सप्लाई बताएगा. उस रिकमेंडेड पावर से 100 या 200 वाट ऊपर चुनोगे तो फिर आपको एक हेडरूम मिलेगा फ्यूचर अपग्रेड्स के लिए. जितना मुझे पता है इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स के बारे में, that can be a joke in itself, जितना मुझे समझ में आता है इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स के बारे में, अगर मेरा लोड 700 वाट है और अगर मैं 1000 वाट की पावर सप्लाई लगाता हूँ, it would be very easy for a 1000 watt power supply to provide 700 watts even at multiple hours of continuous load. एक बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ है जो कि मैं आपको बताना चाहूँगा कि ये गलत सोच है कि आप 1000 वाट की पावर सप्लाई ले रहे हो तो फिर वो पूरा टाइम 1000 वाट की बिजली खींच रहा है आपके पावर से. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. Power supplies don't push power into the computer, computer components draw power from the power supply. If they only need 20 watt at a given time, they are not drawing 1000 watt out of your 1000 watt power supply. They are just drawing only 20 watt. So keep that in mind. Next is to choose the right case. आपको इन सब को हाउस करने के लिए एक केस चाहिए, और वो केस की रिक्वायरमेंट क्या है? सारे काम कर दे, मतलब कि सुंदर भी लगे, एयर फ्लो भी अच्छा हो जाए, सीपीयू कूलर, वाटर कूलर लग जाए, या फिर कभी कस्टम लूप करना हो तो वो लग जाए, या फिर मुझे उसमें 10 हार्ड ड्राइव चाहिए, मुझे इसमें एलईडी लगानी है। आजकल बहुत ही कॉमन हो गया है खिड़की वाले, जिसके कंपोनेंट्स आप देख सकते हो। एयर फ्लो तो जा रहा है लेकिन भाई सुंदर लग रहा है देखने में। पीसी कंपोनेंट्स आजकल थोड़े एफिशिएंट भी हो गए हैं, कंसिडरिंग एवरी डायमेंशन of the components. First dimension that you will see is the size of the motherboard. What kind of motherboard is it that you have chosen? Is it a small form factor motherboard like mini ITX, micro ATX, or a big motherboard like eATX or ATX? ATX is very common these days. I think most of you would choose ATX motherboards. ATX can be accommodated in a good mid-tower case. How much space do you need for the graphic card? Sometimes you choose a very big graphic card. It cannot be fitted into a small form factor case. All the dimensions would be mentioned on the product page of the case. क्या चल रहा है guys? Please subscribe the channel or maybe hit the like button. The next wave is coming. The wave of coronavirus. It is going to hit us all. We have to work. We have to keep distance from each other. Still be productive. Do something to keep yourself busy. Stay home.